Trump shakes things up again. Donald Trump, master of the unexpected? Maybe. Fan of putting square pegs in round holes? Definitely. So when he announced Pete Hegseth as his pick for defense secretary, the collective reaction was a predictable mix of who and, oh no, not again. We're talking about the Pentagon here, folks. The big leagues of national security. And Trump's putting in a guy best known for yelling about wokeism on TV. You can't make this stuff up. Well, Trump can, apparently. This isn't some cushy ambassadorship to a country whose name Trump can pronounce. This is the Department of Defense. The jokes practically write themselves. But let's try to unpack this, shall we? Predictably, reactions in Washington were about as subtle as a Trump rally. Republicans, ever eager to please their orange overlord, offered tepid praise or the ever-popular, "We look forward to learning more about the nominee." Translation: we have no idea who this guy is either. Democrats, bless their hearts, were more direct. Unqualified, dangerous, another sign the apocalypse is nigh. You know, the usual Tuesday in Congress. Meanwhile, the Pentagon brass were probably busy updating their resumes and Googling early retirement benefits. The thing is, even if you watch Fox News religiously, and no judgment here, we all have our vices, you might struggle to pick Hegseth out of a lineup. So before we dive into his, shall we say, unique qualifications, let's get to know the man himself. Hegseth's resume reads like something out of a satirical political thriller. Former Army National Guard officer? Check. Veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan? Check. Fox News commentator prone to making outlandish statements that would make a conspiracy theorist blush? Check. And mate. That's right, folks. This isn't your typical defense secretary pick. We're not talking about seasoned diplomats or retired generals. We're talking about a guy who once suggested we bomb Iran during commercial breaks on Fox and Friends. Now, to be fair, Hegseth has some military experience, but being a weekend warrior and actually running the entire US military are two very different things. It's like comparing playing Call of Duty to planning a real-life invasion. Section 4, he's got opinions, folks, and they're something. When it comes to military matters, Hegseth's views are, shall we say, unconventional. He's not a fan of things like, diversity in the ranks or women serving in combat roles. Basically, he seems to think the military should operate like a 1950s country club, complete with mandatory crew cuts and a strict "no girls allowed" sign. He's also a big believer in military might. Diplomacy? Who needs it when you got bombs and a whole lot of bravado? In Hegseth's world, the solution to every foreign policy challenge seems to involve sending in the troops and asking questions later. Or maybe not even bothering with the questions. Now, some might argue that his hawkish views align with Trump's America First rhetoric. But even the most ardent Trump supporter has to admit that putting Hegseth in charge of the world's most powerful military is a bit like handing a toddler a loaded weapon. Section 5. Buckle up, Senate. It's confirmation time. So what happens next? Well, Hegseth's nomination now heads to the Senate for confirmation. And if you thought the reactions were wild before, just wait until the hearings start. Get ready for some fireworks, folks, because this is going to be good. Democrats will no doubt grill Hegseth on his lack of experience, his controversial views, and maybe even his favorite flavor of ice cream, just to throw him off balance. Republicans, meanwhile, will face the unenviable task of defending the indefensible, all while trying to avoid making eye contact with the Pentagon officials sitting in the back of the room. The big question is, can Hegseth survive the confirmation process? Honestly, with this Senate, anything is possible. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be one heck of a show. Section 6. What could possibly go wrong? Spoiler, a lot. Assuming Hegseth somehow manages to convince the Senate to confirm him, and stranger things have happened, folks, what can we expect from a Hegseth-led Pentagon? Well, let's just say it's not a pretty picture. Imagine a world where the US military is used as a political tool to advance Trump's agenda, where diplomacy is replaced with threats and bluster, and where the already strained relationship between the White House and the Pentagon devolves into outright chaos. In short, it would be a disaster. Not just for the military, but for America's standing in the world and for global security as a whole. But hey, at least it would make for some interesting headlines, right? Section 7. In conclusion, America, you're going to want to see this. So there you have it, folks. Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, has nominated Pete Hegseth, Fox News commentator and walking soundbite, to be the next Secretary of Defense. It's a move that has baffled experts, terrified allies, and left late-night comedians scrambling for new material. What does it all mean? Honestly, it's too early to say for sure. But one thing's certain, with Pete Hegseth at the helm of the Pentagon, we're all in for a wild ride. Buckle up, America. It's gonna be a bumpy one.